This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at the BatmanUniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Your life began the day it nearly ended. We found you. With no memory, we made you one of us. So you could live longer, stronger, superior. You were reborn.
I keep having these memories. Something in my past is the key to all of this.
You know how to fly this thing?
We'll see.
That's a yes or no question.
Yes.
Would you like to know what you really are?
I think I had a life here. What aren't you telling me?
You've come a long way, but you're not as strong as you think. This war is just the beginning.
I'm not gonna fight your war. I'm gonna end it.
Aren't you the cutest little thing? Aren't you cute? And what's your name, huh?
Fury.
What's you? I'll be back.
Hey everybody, this is Bat-Fans. Yes, we're still here. I almost forgot the yes. I was just about to say we're still here. This is episode number 174. Tim is with me as always. Tim, how are you doing?
I am doing good. Happy early and belated 311 day, Dane. Because as we're recording this episode, it is not 311 day yet. It's 2 days away. But by the time this episode releases, it'll be past it. So I got to cover both grounds.
So what do you do on 311 day? Do you just listen to 311 songs?
Mostly, yeah, listen, nothing but 311 music, wearing a 311 t-shirt. But this year is going to be special.
Why?
Because they're actually having a movie playing just on 311 day. They have these kind of documentaries, but not really, but it's like a lot of footage of live performances, cameras following them around, interviews, fans. It's called Enlarged to Show Detail. They released one back around like 96 and another one in 2001. And the third one is finally coming out, which they said has been in production for a long time. And because they usually just put them out on DVD, but for this 311 day, they're having a one night only theatrical release. And you can bet I'm going to be there. So 311 movie on 311 day. What could be better than that?
Did I also see that there's going to be like a 311 cruise or something?
They actually just had that last weekend.
And so you go on the boat and it's a 311 concert, or like does it go out into the ocean?
Yeah, it goes out in the ocean. They go to some islands. They perform 3 shows most of the time, 2 on the boat, and then sometimes they perform one on like an island destination that they go to. And then they have other bands and acts there. There's just different events that go on on the cruise whenever they're not playing.
It's kind of like a festival then, but on a boat.
Pretty much. That's the one 311 experience I got to check off my bucket list that I got to experience as a fan. So one of these years.
So where does it launch from?
Florida.
Oh, Florida, and goes to like the Caribbean?
Yeah, it has different destinations sometimes, but it usually varies, but it's in that area.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess they can do it in California, right?
Oh, that would be awesome if they do, but they've been doing it since 2009, I want to say.
Yeah.
2009 or 2011, because they alternate. One year it's a 311-day concert, which is like a 7-hour show performing a bunch of their songs.
Yeah.
Then the other year it's the cruise. So I think they've been doing that since I want to say 2009, but definitely by 2011, I know.
So, I'm sorry. It's just really weird for me. I'm trying to make sense of this. So, like, they charter a boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they play concerts every night on the boat as you go to the festival, or to go to the or on the way to the island.
Yeah, well, the main event's on the boat. Like the island, when they go to a specific island, it's not. But you only spend like maybe a few hours there.
Oh,
and because all the activities on the boat as it sails.
Oh, so the main thing is the boat. You're not taking a boat to go to an island to see them. Oh, okay.
Because you're with the band on the boat, and they have different games. Like with the guitar player and singer, they have the Name That Tune game, where the guitar player and the singer just plays the little chords of a song. They have like some fans on stage trying to guess what it is just by hearing it, a very little portion of the songs. Like trivia contests and stuff like that.
Oh, so they have events on the boat.
Yeah.
Oh, Tim, you gotta go.
I know. I want to. As part of me thinks I can't say I'm a diehard 311 fan until I go, but I see so many other fans I follow on Twitter who go there and see all these videos and experience their album, so it's awesome. Like, I got to do that one of these years. But to be honest, I'm not someone. A cruise never appealed to me, setting sail on the ocean, so it's not my ideal situation. But gotta try new things, I guess.
Yeah, you're definitely not a 311 fan in my book, unless you go on the.
Well, you're the one who decides it all, Dane.
No, that's cool. That's really interesting because like, what other band does that?
I know Weezer did it once. I haven't done it since, but
yeah,
I think 311 started that trend because after that I've been noticing a few bands that do that. So, but they're the ones who still continue to do it every other year.
I wonder when space travel gets popularized or cheap enough. I wonder if 311 is going to have like a space travel, right?
The 311 shuttle, yeah. That I would do. No hesitation. They put on a special concert on the moon. I mean, how cool would that be?
Oh, Tim. Hey, 311. I gotta give him credit for thinking about new things, trying new things, going to an island, going on a cruise.
Yep, that's why I love them.
But yeah, anyway, let's just do our Dark Knight Rises minute by minute commentary. We're going from minute 122 to 123, or the hour and
the 2 hour actually.
2 hour and second 2 hour and second minute.
There you go.
To the 2 hour and third minute.
See, we're getting so far along now, it's hard to keep track of where we're at.
But we are getting closer, which is the point of all of this. So yeah, just grab your HD DVD, grab your Blu-ray, grab your laser disc, grab your beta tape, grab your VHS tape, grab your Netflix physical subscription, your Blockbuster card. By the way, the last Blockbuster is closing down. Did you see that?
The one in Alaska is?
No, that for some reason everybody said that was the last Blockbuster.
Yeah.
But then apparently there's one in Oregon this whole time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, the last one in the world is closing down. So
sad
story. But that's why it's on our list. And grab your, I forget where I left off.
Well, the best one, the best for last.
Oh, how could I forget? The VHS to DVD converted copy. Now, this is the the best quality to watch The Dark Knight Rises in. So if you have a VHS to DVD copy, definitely put that one on. And I'm going to give the countdown. So Tim, are you ready?
Yes, I am. My copy's converted and ready to go.
All right, 3, 2, 1, play.
Looks like Gordon is going to get ambushed, despite John Blake's heads up. I still love just the snow setting for this movie and the finale of it. I mean, it's not snowing hard, but you just see the snowfall. Visually, it just looks really cool. Seeing the tumblers drive through it.
How come this isn't at night? You know, there's hardly any night scenes.
Yeah,
except for the beginning. Yeah.
I kind of like that. Just another thing that makes Dark Knight Rises different from the other two movies in the trilogy. Like I said, with the snow having its own feel for it.
Yeah.
We're back to another Scarecrow trial. Which, again, I still wish he had his mask. Maybe since he had two sequences of acting as a judge, he should have one with the mask and one without.
Do you think Cillian Murphy did this in one day, or was it?
I would think so.
Yeah. I mean, it's only two scenes.
Taking a week or so to these two little scenes.
What is he sitting on? Is that just desks on top of desks?
Yeah. Are you sitting on a pile of books or something?
But that's our Dark Knight Rises minute by minute commentary, and now we can get into our featured topic, which I'm actually excited to talk about because I haven't seen it yet. Mm-hmm. And I really want to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, so the featured topic for this episode is going to be a review of Captain Marvel, the latest MCU movie. And I just wanted to start reviewing all comic book movies or superhero movies that come out now because, you know, as you've heard on this episode, we talk about all the stuff we're into, and superhero movies is right up there on this list. I just love talking about them. And then also, I don't know about you, Dane, I'm sure you are too, but I'm just getting really sick of the DC versus Marvel stuff going on in fandom on social media. Every time there's a new DC movie or new Marvel movie, the other side has to take shots at it. And as much as they say, oh, we don't care about this, they sure do love caring about talking about a movie that they seem to have no interest about. It just annoys me to death. And on this show, we love both, and I want to talk about both and show that there is no reason to feel that way, one side versus the other. So that's something I want to start doing on the podcast, is whenever there's a new superhero comic movie that we see, we're going to talk about it. So, and the first one on 2019 is Captain Marvel. And this one had a lot of hype building up for it. I mean, this is Marvel's first solo movie with the female superhero as the lead, which after 10 years, it took them a long time to finally do that. So there's a lot of excitement there. And then just the build up to Avengers Endgame coming out just a month afterwards. You know, she was teased in the end credit scene after Infinity War and just looks to play a big role in Endgame. So this was her big debut, which is going to get, I think, all the fans excited for Endgame even more. So a lot of hype going into it. I was looking forward to it just because it's a new MCU movie. The concept of Captain Marvel, a new cosmic sci-fi movie in the Marvel universe, is going to be cool. And my familiarity with the character, I can't say I read a lot of comics with her, but I first heard and learned about the character all the way back from the 90s X-Men animated series. That's when I first heard about Carol Danvers, when then she was known as Miss Marvel and not Captain Marvel, because it was the episode that was all about Rogue and how she got her powers and how she stole him Miss Marvel's powers, and that's why Rogue has the flight, super strength. And that was my first introduction to the character, and I first heard about her, and I always had made her connection with Rogue. And then not until the 2010s, the early 2010s, when the Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes animated series came on, I believe it was the second season. She might have been introduced in the first, but Carol Danvers became Captain Marvel in that second season. And that's kind of when I really first heard about her origin story and how she got her powers and her involvement with the Kree and the hero Mar-Vell. So that was my basic introduction and history to the character, and then just reading a few actual comic stories with her in it. But those animated series is where I got my, history lesson and information about where she came from, how she got her powers. So that was my knowledge of the character going into the movie. So I was going into it pretty fresh. as far as not knowing what to expect at every turn. And after it was over, I gotta say, it was really, really good. It was a great, different new origin story for a superhero movie that, shook things up from the normal origin formula that we've seen, and particularly MCU movies. And I thought they did a good job because it's not told in a linear style like most of the MCU origin stories are. A little bit of Batman Begins feel to it as far as jumping from different time periods about Carol Danvers, but they did it in a way that was in universe tied to the story they were telling there, because I should say too, I'm not going to go into full-blown spoilers on events, but I will talk about specific scenes that maybe you might not want to know about, but I won't go into major plot details about what happens. Because I think you've seen in the trailer, so this isn't much of a spoiler, but she is being held captive by the Skrulls. And as we see that, it kind of at first seems like a normal cut from a movie that's going to tell where she came from as a kid in her early years as an Air Force pilot. Kind of similar ways that Batman Begins did, but it actually ties into the actual story of the movie where it's the Skrulls kind of poking at her memory, and you hear their voices as you're seeing these flashback sequences, like, oh, what's that moment there? Let's go back a little bit further in her mind, stuff like that. So we see that a lot in comics and even animated superhero stories, but it was kind of cool to see that in the live action film too. So I like how they incorporated and told her origin story in a new, unique way that we haven't seen too much in superhero films. So I love that. And just the comic book fan in me, I just love the setting of the stories they were telling, because they're finally going into the Kree-Skrull War, which I've always read about in Marvel Comics, and that's a big part of the cosmic side of the Marvel Universe. So to see the Skrulls make their live-action debut and into the MCU, it worked really well in how the history of the war that they have with the Kree. And the story, what I really liked about it, it took a different turn that I wasn't expecting, but it worked really well in the course of the movie, and it was nice to see. So it kind of flipped things around a little bit from what comic fans are used to in that side of the Marvel history as far as the Krees and the Skrull goes. So that was really cool. And also, too, another big thing about this movie, how it was different, was the 90s setting. And I gotta say, it worked really well. As someone who grew up in the 90s, it was one of those movies where, because, there's a bunch of period piece movies, and it's the stuff set in the 80s is all like the rage nowadays and all those cultural references, which I get to a degree because I was born in 83, so I grew up in the 80s as a little kid. But in the 90s is where, I was older. I was a teenager in the 90s, and so there's a lot of stuff I would remember more seeing in a movie like this that had a lot of 90s callbacks, and it was definitely fun to see old dial-up computers, Blockbuster Video making an appearance, stuff like that. Also, I got to give a shout out to a scene where she was at on a payphone in a record store, and there was a 311 poster in the background, of course. I might have been the only one who spotted that, but it was there. And then hearing the 90s music, it was kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy and their awesome mix soundtracks with 70s hits. This was one that I really took more to because it's classic 90s rock. I mean, you got Nirvana playing, you got Garbage playing, no doubt. So the soundtrack was really cool and worked pretty well for most of the scenes. So I just love the whole 90s setting, the nostalgia kick I got with that, which, the 90s is now not quite on the level of 80s as far as everyone's nostalgia high goes to. But this one, it's kind of, I think the 90s can finally get there a little bit. This was a scenario where that was the case. But yeah, and the characters were really well. But Brie Larson did a great job as Carol Danvers in Captain Marvel, and her relationship with Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson playing a young Nick Fury who that de-aging technology they're using now is getting better and better. But regardless of how well that looked, Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson, I felt had great chemistry and kind of like a buddy cop type team up that they had going on throughout the movie. And I just think that as a comic fan, I could see certain things coming as far as some of the mystery that was playing out in the story. But I think for most of the casual audience who aren't familiar with Captain Marvel, it's going to be a cool mystery to see unfold as they're watching the movie. So it's a really solid story, as I said, for her origin that was different from most origin stories. And you put that in with in the backdrop of the Kree-Skrull war for comic book fans like us who knows that history. It's just really cool to see how it all played out. So all that stuff was great. The biggest reason why I like the movie, the story it was told in, and just the performances and the way they told her origin, I thought was really well done. And probably this might sound a little strange, but I got a few nitpicks here, and one of them is that I felt, while cool, and especially at the end, the action sequences could have been a little longer, because it felt a little held back to me for a big comic book superhero movie. But there was definitely some cool visuals, like I said at the end, when she fully gains her powers and is just blowing things up. And you've seen those shots in the trailer where she's in space, just blowing up these ships. It looks awesome. It's just, I didn't felt it was long enough or had quite that big impact that most of those final superhero climactic battles do. And because maybe we're just getting spoiled with other movies like the Avengers films that just have these amazing action sequences that blow you away. I think it just felt that because the two directors who directed this movie, I'm pretty sure it's not their first film, but it's definitely their first, big budget action movie like this. So maybe their inexperience showed a little bit as far as the action sequences go, because nothing really blew me away as far as, oh man, this is amazing. There was a couple of shots, but by the time before you even feel that, it's over already. So that was one nitpick I had. But the other one, now this is just coming from the comic book continuity nerd in me. Certain things did not line up that have been established in the MCU already in previous film. So, and one of them, and this is really nitpicking, but you remember in Iron Man, Dane, how Agent Coulson, they kept referring SHIELD as, they didn't have the acronym for SHIELD yet. He'd been calling it the full name that it had. And It wasn't until the very end where, they kept saying Strategic Homeland. I forget what the I stands for. It's the Strategic Homeland, then Enforcement and Logistics Division. But they kept saying, you guys got to think of a shorter name. And then by the time at the end of the movie, he goes, oh yeah, you can just call it SHIELD. But in Captain Marvel, they're already calling themselves SHIELD. Coulson and Fury, they're referring to their agency as SHIELD. So one thing that didn't quite match up, and again, it's very small, but the nerd in me just couldn't help it. I wonder why they decided to go back to calling it its full name and not SHIELD. But again, something you could live with. I couldn't help but think about that. And the other thing, too, that we get in this movie, we find out how Nick Fury loses his eye. And that is, I'm already seeing some mixed reactions about that, as far as how it happened and who did it. So I'll be curious to see, as the movie is out, more people see it. And after a few years, how it's going to be looked back upon as something that's, kind of good as far as being different and not expecting, or being something that is a little bit silly. I'll throw out the spoiler warning right here in case you don't want to know how he loses his eye, because I'm going to say it. Unless you don't want to hear it, Dane.
No, just let me guess. Did it fall out?
It didn't fall out.
Okay.
Okay.
That was my guess. Oh, my eye fell out.
Because one of the standout, most fun characters in this movie is the cat named Goose. It's an alien life form, but it looks like a cat. It's kind of how Rocket looks like a raccoon, but he's not actually a raccoon.
Right.
This is an alien species who looks like a cat, but it's not a cat. And he has some great moments because you see him, show his alien abilities that he has. And in the trailer, you even see how it's kind of warming up to Nick Fury. Nick Fury is petting it and talking silly to it. But then at the end, he gets a little too comfortable with the cat. And the cat slashes his eye. And that's how Nick Fury loses his eye. I got to say, whether they had this idea way back when Winter Soldier came out, it does line up pretty well, because in Winter Soldier, he does tell Captain America where, the last time I trusted somebody, I lost my left eye. And he did say to the cat at some point where, I'm trusting you, or I'm trusting you to do this, or something like that. And also in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, we saw that when he lifted his eye patch up for the first time in the MCU, he did have these 3 claw marks across his eye. That matched up really well to what the cat did to him in this movie. So in the end, it all fits into the continuity, just a matter if you think it's a little too silly. Because I've been hearing and seeing reactions on Twitter like, oh, they turned a great bit of dialogue that he had in Winter Soldier into a joke now. Because it was played for laughs in the movies, and it was funny. I'm not going to deny that. So I can understand how someone can feel that way. That takes a little less as far as, the character of Nick Fury as far as being someone, this battle-hardened agent who lost his eye in a mission or whatnot. But at the same time, I think it's pretty funny, too, because at the end, he's kind of already making up stories to how that's not how he lost his eye. He's how he lost it on a heroic mission. So it plays up that spy angle, too, how Nick Fury would want to cover that up and create this legend behind it when in actuality a cat slashed it out. So in the end, I like it. I think it's funny. It was unexpected, and I did not think that's how Nick Fury lost his eye, but there it is. It would have made for a good moment in the movie. So yeah, overall, I really, really thought Captain Marvel was good. Solid origin story for Carol Danvers, told in a comic book storyline backdrop I've been wanting to see for a long time with the Kree and the Skrulls. And yeah, just great character interaction throughout the movie. The cast was really great. I already said Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson worked really well together, but Ben Mendelsohn as the Skrull Talos, he's great. Even within all that prosthetic makeup as a green alien, he's just a really solid actor. So all great stuff around. Again, minor nitpicks about some of the action sequences. While cool, I just wish they were played out a little longer, and then some continuity nitpicks for me. And the end credit scene too, there was two of them, and one of them sets up Captain Marvel's return for Avengers Endgame, which got everyone in the theater excited. Everyone just left like with smiles on their faces and just couldn't wait for Avengers Endgame, which, like I said, is only a month away. Is going to be awesome. So yeah, it was a great experience in the theater too. Seemed like everyone enjoyed it, but what really stood out to me, there was a lot of young kids in the theater, both boys and girls, who were just eating it up what they were seeing. Some kids sat in a few seats aside from me, some behind, some in front of me, but all of them are just like laughing, really getting a kick out of the action sequences, even though I might thought they needed to be longer. The kids were eating it up and just really enjoying the movie, which was awesome to see. And when the lights came on after the movie was over, I just saw a bunch of smiles on all these kids' faces, which is great. I mean, I just love seeing that when this next generations of kids are being exposed to these superheroes that we all love, and just knowing that, it's going to continue on way for every generation, way past our time. So I just love seeing that. And the one thing I'll mention, which was an awesome part of the movie, the logo that starts every Marvel movie. You have that great fanfare theme that kicks in, and then you see the Marvel Studios logo that's showing scenes from the different Marvel movies and the different heroes. But for this one, it started with the same music, the same logo, but instead of showing scenes from the different MCU movies, they showed it of all the Stan Lee cameos. And boy, was that really cool to see, because this is the first MCU movie that has come out since Stan Lee's passing. And for them to give a tribute like that to him was just amazing. The theater I was in just erupted with applause and cheers. It was just really, really cool to see. And this part of me makes me think they should just have that now for every MCU movie. It was just really, really good and well done, and just such an awesome tribute to Stan Lee. And his cameo was another good one, as always, in Captain Marvel. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. Something different, I think, for a superhero origin story, and a great introduction to a new character who I'm already can't wait to see in Endgame now. So I'm going to give it a solid 4 out of 5. I thought it was really good.
That's where everybody seems to be. 4 out of 5. You got like I think 84, 85 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for a first movie, that's pretty good. So
yeah. Of course, the haters out there are trying to make it like it's failure. Sabotaging the user review scores on Rotten Tomatoes again. Same thing they did with The Last Jedi. It's pathetic, really. It really is.
Didn't Rotten Tomatoes get rid of that?
They did before the movie actually came out, because they knew trolls were just doing that. But it's kind of pointless, because they know right when the movie opens they're going to do the exact same thing again, which they already proven to be doing. So it's just sad. It really is. But I just love how it's pretty much all for nothing. I mean, I think it's on track to have 150 to 160 million opening weekend. And it's like it got an A cinema score from audiences, so it's just pathetic how they're trying to sabotage it and it's not working. So I love seeing them fail.
Yeah, well, I will be seeing it, Tim.
Cool.
I don't mean to surprise you or to amaze you, but I will actually go to the theater and see it.
That does surprise me, yes. What is the last Marvel movie you actually saw in the theater? Because I know you mainly check the ones out you want to see once they come out on digital.
Yeah. Dang it. What was the last one?
That long ago.
Guardians 2, I think. No, I didn't see that. No.
I remember you telling me when that came out
Yeah.
on Blu-ray or digital you saw it. Was it Civil War? Did you see that in the theater?
No.
Not even a new Spider-Man can draw you into the theater for that. Was it Spider-Man Homecoming?
No, it wasn't Spider-Man Homecoming. Before that, I don't know if it technically counts as a Marvel movie, but Logan. Logan was the last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not an MCU movie, but a Marvel movie. So.
When was that? 2016?
17.
So it hasn't been that long.
But apparently longer for an MCU movie.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our feature topic for this episode, and now we can move on to our news and discussion topics. So our first piece of news is that there is a new Shazam trailer.
Finally.
Not a lot of new footage.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, especially in the beginning. It was like, man, they're kind of showing a lot of the same stuff. And then kind of in the middle got going with some new footage. But honestly, I'm not upset with that because we're so close to its release now. We're a month away. And why do we, for me personally, I don't need to see that much more new footage when we're this close. I'm already excited for it. We got other movies coming out. Captain Marvel's out to tide us over for the next comic book movie. So I was fine with it. And the new shots that they did show in this trailer still look really good. I mean, the one that cracked me up the most, no surprise here, is when he throws that like large Batman toy. He just goes, "I'm Batman." Or, I think he says, "I'm Batman." He does like it in a Batman voice. He just throws that toy. It was just funny. And other cool shots of him using his powers of stopping that buzz, and some other shots of him in that fight with the villain played by Mark Strong. So yeah, to me, it's looking really good.
Who is that?
It's villain? Dr. Yeah. See, I might be pronouncing his name. Dr. Savannah, I believe. But let me look that up just to make sure I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know anything
it's Dr.
about
Savannah. Yeah, it's Dr. Savannah. Is his name.
I don't know anything about Shazam or his villains, so I'm a little in the dark on that.
Yeah, Savannah and Black Adam are his two main ones, so I imagine Black Adam will be saved for the sequel. But no, it's looking good. I can't wait for it. Unfortunately, they didn't show this trailer with Captain Marvel when I saw it, because I know that's probably why the new trailer came out, so it could be attached to Captain Marvel. Yeah. But at last I didn't see it. But what's cool about Shazam in the early buzz is that, I mean, DC already screened it for press, and they lifted the social media reaction embargo for it the day Captain Marvel came out. And it's getting really, really good buzz.
Good.
From everyone who's saying it has like, it's a lot of heart to it. It's a very fun superhero movie, different. And I'm hearing comparisons to like, it feels like a Steven Spielberg, like early 80s movies. If you were to do a superhero movie, this is what would be done in that time. So I'm just hearing nothing but great things about it, which has got me more excited. I mean, the embargo lifted as I was waiting in the theater for Captain Marvel to begin, and I'm just reading all these reactions to saying how great Shazam is. I'm just thinking, man, what a great time to be a comic book fan, as we say a lot, but it really is the case when you're waiting for a new comic book movie to begin, and you're seeing these great reactions to the next big superhero movie, which is just a few weeks away. I mean, how great is that? So it was just awesome, and I'm just really glad to hear the positive buzz surrounding Shazam.
See, Steven Spielberg in the 80s. So E.T.?
Yeah, I bet that would be comparison.
Empire of the Sun?
I don't know if it's going to be like that.
Indy?
Indiana Jones would probably be a good comparison as far as like adventure. The action and adventure aspect to it. It's getting a lot of comparisons to Big, obviously, even though it's not a Spielberg movie. That and Goonies, I've heard too.
Oh, yeah. You know what I never understood about Goonies?
What's that?
Yeah, you've seen Goonies, right?
I've seen Goonies, but a lot later than most 80s kids. I was like, for whatever the reason, one of the movies I never really watched as a kid in the 80s, but not until I was like older until I saw it.
Right. You know how in the end, they steal the treasure? And like, how do you fence like a giant ruby? like, what are you gonna do with that?
Yeah, there's got to be some shop or some auction place out there that could cash it in. Maybe not in their local town, but
no,
somewhere.
But like I was thinking, like a jewel in general like that would be auctioned at like Christie's or something. Like you wouldn't just give it to a pawn shop, you know, or take it to a pawn shop. And it would be like this big thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so like, how would you fence? How would you sell that?
Maybe that's why they never made a sequel.
Yeah.
They just couldn't work around how they'd benefit for all the treasure they got.
But yeah, that's the Shazam trailer, and now we can move on to some it's a negative positive, Tim.
Yeah. Kind of depending how you look at it. But
so the first part is that Will Smith isn't going to be in James Gunn's Suicide Squad, but the second part is that Idris Elba of The Office fame.
You know what? I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
When I got to this. Did you get to those episodes? Aren't those great?
Idris Elba's?
That's actually when I first saw him in anything.
Yeah.
So those are some of my favorite episodes, though.
Yeah, because he's trying so hard to be a worker, you know. Like, it's just all this stuff, and how he hates Jim.
Yeah.
But yeah, Idris Elba is gonna replace Will Smith, or rumored.
Right now, it's like he's in negotiations, but I think it's going to be a done deal unless it all falls apart, which you never know, could happen. But right now, it's looking like he's pretty much going to be the new Deadshot.
Mm. So yeah, kind of sad news, because I thought Will Smith was a really good Deadshot. He was, one of two things that was good about Suicide Squad. The other being Margot Robbie. But yeah, I mean, Idris Elba is also a good actor, and it's a time for change, I think, especially with the Suicide Squad, which did not go the way that Warner Brothers and Disney planned it.
Sadly, no. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I loved Will Smith as Deadshot. I just love his humor and his wit that he brings to all his roles, and he had that as Deadshot in Suicide Squad. So at the same time, I'm going to miss that in this next movie. But I tweeted this out. If you're going to have to replace with Will Smith, Idris Elba is probably as good as it's going to get. I mean, he's such a solid, good actor. It's going to be a different performance. There's no doubt about it. But I think he can make it his own and just do another great, solid job as Floyd Lawton in this movie. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, it was disappointing at first when we learned Will Smith wasn't going to be in it. And I think it's because of his other commitment to another film. And there was like a lot of rumors or speculation about what's the reason. Is it because James Gunn did not want to have Deadshot in this movie? Is it because of scheduling conflicts, or are they going to recast? So a lot of stuff that everyone was wondering what the reason is, but it turned out to be that James Gunn wants Deadshot in Suicide Squad, but it's just turned out Will Smith couldn't do it. And I think it's because he's doing the sequel to the Netflix movie Bright, if I'm not mistaken, which
really,
kind of wish he'd go to choose Suicide Squad over that, but
that wasn't a good movie.
It had its moments.
I tried with it. I tried to like suspend, all belief, but it just wasn't working out.
Yeah, I mean, it had a neat concept, I think, that was worth doing and exploring, but I think they tried really too hard to like get you invested into the lore and all this backstory, where it's like you just got to let the movie breathe on its own, and if it's successful with its own solid story, you explore more of that history in sequels and whatnot. But they try to give you this whole history. I don't remember of it, but this whole history of this war, and
it was
almost like
it
was almost like they knew it was going to be popular, and they want to plant all these seeds to get fans excited about future potential stories they can do with it, when they should have just really focus on the story with these two characters and then see how it goes to explore more of that. It's almost like they were just thinking too far ahead in certain aspects of it becoming a franchise.
It reminded me of my favorite actor, Dane DeHaan, for no reason.
I don't know why that's the case.
His movie Valerian. It reminded me of Valerian a lot, where it was supposed to be this big thing, and they're trying to lay every single piece of the track while the train is going.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Yeah.
So, I did try with it, but just didn't work.
Yeah.
What was the name of the drug in that movie? Wasn't there like a drug or something? I don't even remember. Sparkle or something? Like, I have no idea.
Drawn a blank.
Yeah.
I just remember they were after wands. They had those like fairies.
Yeah, like the wands and the fairies and
see all that stuff. I think it'd be cool to have that in a modern setting, like fantasy mixed in with reality. But like I said, some of it worked, but then sometimes it didn't.
Yeah, which is kind of my fear with one of your favorite franchises, Tim, Kingdom Hearts. Mm-hmm. It's like, like when it doesn't work, the Disney and the Square Enix, does it really, really, really not work?
No, I don't think so, because for the most part, I think it all works pretty well, to be honest. And maybe I'm biased because I'm a diehard fan, but of Kingdom Hearts 3 in particular, where you're in a level where you're with, Frozen and Toy Story, and your characters look like these toy pieces, and they're like animated characters when they're in Frozen. But then there's the Pirates of the Caribbean level, and the graphics are super realistic, like as good as any modern game engine graphics you'll see today. And it works really well. I mean, seeing Donald and Goofy look in those realistic style graphics, it works. I mean, you can tell how different it is, but I think the transition is seamless. So, that's what I love about it. Is to see all these different styles come into play and have it meshed together.
Yeah. Was anybody really asking for a Bright sequel? Or was it like a big hit? Or
I know it was a real big hit as far as viewership goes. I think I remember hearing it's like one of the, if not the most viewed Netflix original. Maybe it's just for an original movie, but it might just be for any movie in general on Netflix. I know it was pretty popular, even though it got really bad reviews, but it was successful as far as viewership goes.
Oh, I see.
And which is why I think the only reason why it's getting a sequel.
But speaking of sequels, Aquaman 2 has been announced, and we're gonna be waiting for a while too.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising.
It's gonna come out in December 2022. December 2022. I'm kind of happy with this, Tim. Let's definitely get this right. I still haven't seen Aquaman, but yeah, let's give this time.
Yeah, I mean, take as much time as you need is my motto for any movie, really. But I am surprised that Warner Brothers is doing it this long, because you would think after their first movie or comic book movie since The Dark Knight Rises to make $1 billion, they'd want to get a sequel out as quickly as possible, like within 2 years or 3 the most. But the fact that it's 4, I mean, to me, that shows that they probably want to wait on James Wan to direct the sequel, because I don't think that's officially been confirmed yet. But he's probably would want to maybe do another project before diving right back into another Aquaman movie. So maybe they're going to wait on him to finish his next project so he can come back to do Aquaman, which, again, it's fine by me. So, and what's also what I've been hearing lately too is that while we might have to wait 4 years for a sequel for Aquaman, they did report that they're going to make a spin-off movie based on The Trench, which I think they said is probably going to come out before the sequel. So there are going to be some Aquaman connections, probably without a doubt. I'm not sure if Aquaman himself will be in it, but just another movie set in his universe will be out before 4 years. So you'll have that, which I'm kind of surprised that's the direction they're going for a spinoff with The Trench. The Trench are cool, don't get me wrong. They're these great, like monster creatures who, made for one of the cooler sequences in the film. And I think there is a way to do a movie about it if you explore their lore and the history that kind of been established in the first film. So it's going to be interesting to see, just who they actually focus on as far as main characters goes. But I think it could work. So yeah, even though we have to wait 4 years for Aquaman 2, you still got The Trench, which I know surprised everyone, but at the same time, it could be something that I think can work pretty well and to hold us over until we get the full Aquaman sequel.
Yeah, so we do have a release date for Aquaman 2, even though it's 3 or 4 years away, but we still do not have a release date for that Disney digital service.
Wait until April, because I believe the same week that Celebration begins, Star Wars Celebration,
yeah,
they're going to have the first, demonstration of how Disney Plus works. And I would think they would announce the release date at that event, and just to get, everyone, more excited about it and to, start planning on when they can get it.
Yeah, because they announce all these things, like the Disney Vault is going to be on the Disney Plus or whatever it's called.
That surprised me. I thought Disney would never do that with the Vault. I mean, they've had their Vault as long as I can remember being a little kid watching Disney movies. So the idea that we could have every Disney animated movie on that streaming service, I think would be worth getting in itself. But throw in The Mandalorian, Clone Wars, Marvel TV shows. I mean, how can you not get it?
Yeah, it's weird. We've got announcements for the Disney Vault, The Mandalorian, all these Star Wars things, all these Marvel things, but we still haven't had an announcement for when it's actually coming out.
Yeah, they just keep saying late 2019. So my guess, I'm going to say November the latest, October the earliest.
Oh, you see, I was thinking it's going to come around Christmas time. It's going to come with episode 9.
See, I think they want a little breathing room for all the Star Wars focus to be on The Mandalorian before episode 9 comes out, so they're kind of not competing with each other.
So The Mandalorian is premiering with the app?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Wow.
Which just wrapped filming, too.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were filming it. I mean, obviously, they've been filming, but I didn't know they started this, last year?
Yeah. Around, about fall of last year, I think. Around October, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess whenever that comes out, I guess it's...
Now, the big question I have, is it going to be like Netflix where they have all the episodes ready to stream on day one, or is it going to be a weekly release like, some of the other streaming services are doing? I know the DC Universe app is like that, where their original shows air once a week. So I don't know, part of me thinks that, would be cool to have new Star Wars on a weekly basis, that just where after you see one episode, you can't wait to watch the next one, and it builds anticipation. But at the same time, I've been getting so used to this binging way of watching things where you can just watch everything in one sitting if you want. So yeah, I'm kind of torn how I want it, but either way, I mean, I'm going to be watching it day one and whatever. It's all there to see in one binge watching experience, or watching it each episode every week as soon as it drops.
And also, I'm wondering if they're going to do it like how Netflix or the DC app does it, where it's like, okay, so we're opening the Disney Vault, right? But Bambi is only going to be here for 3 months, and then we're going to, I don't know, release Snow White or something,
Yeah, part of me, because everyone's saying the entire Disney collection will be on Disney Plus, and part of me is thinking, well, that would be awesome. I don't think that's more than likely not going to be the case. That sounds too good to be true. I think it's more in line with what you're saying, Dane. It's going to be, a collection of movies there for a certain amount of time, and then some other ones will come in. There's going to be a lot of mixing and matching, which is what I think. I hope that's not the case, because I think it would be awesome to have every single Disney animated movie finally there in one place if you wanted to watch. Because I've always wanted to do that. Watch, every Disney animated movie in a row from when they released, starting with Snow White up to the most current one. It'll take a while, but just to see how Disney animation evolved, I think would be really cool. So if that's the case, that would be awesome. But I think it's too good to be true. I mean, just the fact that they're opening the vault to have them on there is such a big deal. To go that extra level to have them all there at the same time, it'd be surprising. But yeah, I'm not holding my breath for that.
What about Pixar? Is Pixar going to be?
Yeah, pretty much everything. I mean,
every Disney thing.
Yeah, they're going to want to, I think, put all their resources into this thing.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to put all their big guns, and I imagine Pixar is part of that.
Well, whenever that comes out, I'm sure it'll be great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's time for my, weekly, or I should say every 2-week rant about the DC Universe app not being on a video game console yet. I'm still waiting, and I'm hearing amazing things about Doom Patrol. I'm hearing that's, such a refreshing new superhero TV show. And I want to check that out. I just know if I go out and buy a Roku or something, or the Amazon Fire Stick, I get it the next day or next week. The DC app is now available on Xbox One, on PS4. But
they're cheap enough now, Tim. They're cheap
how
enough.
Much are they?
For their basic model, I think it's like $70 or $80.
Yeah. I don't know, still not cheap enough for me as far as.
Is it on smart TVs? Or no?
No, it's not. But I do have a smart TV. Yeah. But I will not be waiting for the Disney Plus. I mean, if they announce it's not going to be on Xbox One or PS4, I will be getting whatever it is available on, because there is no way I am not watching The Mandalorian and Clone Wars when those
what
come
if
out.
it's only available on Android phones? Would you go out and buy an Android phone?
My brother has an Android phone, so I watch it on his. Wow. But if I did it, yes, I would buy my own Android phone.
So if it was only on phones, would you? Not iPads, then. just on the phones. Would you still?
Yes, I would, of course.
Well, same thing.
Even if the only way you can watch these new shows is buying the VHS to DVD converter program, I would do that.
Or what if, Tim, Disney all of a sudden had a partnership with Samsung, right?
Okay.
And you could only view it on their smartwatches. Would you still
smartwatch?
Would you still buy a smartwatch from Samsung?
It does. Yes, it doesn't matter what the option is. If that's the only way, that's what I'll have to do. So even though my arm might get tired holding it up to my face for several hours.
Okay, my last one is so Disney has the partnership with Samsung, right?
Okay.
So what if it was only on brand new, the brand new top of the line Samsung television? That's like $3,000-$4,000. Would you buy that TV?
Time to get a new TV, I guess.
Wow, that's commitment, Tim.
There's nothing I won't do for Star Wars, Dane. You know that by
now. But yeah, that's all of our news topic and our Disney Plus. And how far would Tim go to get Disney Plus? Conversation. So now we can move on to our conversation with Alex and listener feedback. But Jordan didn't send an email again this week, so we're just going to move straight into our comic book reviews. And for this episode, we're going to be reviewing Batman number 66 and Detective Comics number 999. We're so close, Tim.
I know, we're almost there. I can't wait.
And as always, we're gonna talk about spoilers here. So if you haven't read your books yet, I want to do that first and then come back to this. So our rating scale is going to be how far Tim would go, like on a scale of 1 to 5. On a scale of 1 to 5, how far Tim would go to get the Disney Plus app.
As soon as we were talking about that, I knew that had to be the rating scale for this episode. How could it not?
So Tim, why don't you take it away?
All right, so Batman number 66. I finally got caught up with Tom King's Batman. We're still on the Nightmare arc. I didn't read too much to get a crossover with The Flash that had to deal with the events going on in Heroes in Crisis, which I haven't. That's not a story I've been reading. I'm hearing mixed things on it, really. And the premise of it, while neat in concept, I've heard, because they killed off a lot of characters, like off panel, I guess, with not showing it, which to me felt a little odd, but so I really wasn't into that story. So maybe I'll check it out eventually when it's all done and collected. But we're back into Tom King's main Batman story, still in that Nightmare arc, but it looks like things might be winding down pretty soon. So, but in this nightmare Batman is having, we actually don't see much of Batman or Bruce at all. It's the Question interrogating Selina Kyle, and begins with him lighting her cigarette, and then he begins asking her questions, and they keep going back and forth. Basically, the Question is trying to figure out, why she did not meet Batman on the rooftop on their wedding day. Why did she leave? And Selina keeps telling him, I read the note. Did you read the note? And the Question's all, I did read the note, but I don't believe you. So that was the reason. And in similar fashion to that we've seen in Tom King's story is that, going back to different events of Batman and Catwoman and some of the encounters they've had, we get a flashback to year one again, with their first encounter when Bruce met her as they were fighting on the streets of Gotham there before he was Batman, which is always a nice callback and good to see. Then we get another encounter where, the first time they kind of work together in planning to take out Two-Face. Batman goes to confront Catwoman as she's stealing a diamond in a museum, but it turns out it was a setup where Two-Face got to her to lure Batman. But in reality, though, Batman and Catwoman knew this was going to happen, and they planned to fool Two-Face to stop him. So it was kind of a cool little sequence to see seeing them work together for the first time. So the Question and Catwoman are kind of going back and forth. Like I said, he's trying to get her to reveal the true reason why she did not go to him and meet him on the rooftop on the wedding day. And throughout that, like I said, we get different flashbacks, these different encounters they've had, and them describing who Batman is. And probably my favorite part of this issue is when Selina is describing Batman, and just for me, what makes Batman so great. And we're talking about how he has no powers, he's not like Superman or Wonder Woman. And I just love the bit of dialogue of what she says here when she describes Superman and Wonder Woman as being gods. And she just asks, who is he? And he goes, all he is a vow. And then she quotes his famous line of what he said on his parents' grave, saying, I swear by the spirit of my parents to avenge their deaths by warring on all criminals. And she just goes, that's it. That's who Batman is. Then she even draws the parallel to all the different villains in Batman's rogues gallery, as far as, they can beat him, they can knock him down, but he always gets back up. And it's all, it's all because of that vow he made, and that's the strength and his superpower, so to speak. And I just love how that she's really describing that is what makes Batman, and I always love hearing that. And so the Question is kind of getting upset near the end of this nightmare that Bruce is having, and he reveals that the reason he's here, the Question, is because he actually tells Selina, Batman's trapped in a nightmare and, trying to get out. And she's not worried about it. She goes, no big deal. He'll escape. And he's going, no, you don't understand. This situation, me and you right here, this is his escape. Me here finding the truth. This is what's going to set Batman free. And then he kind of calls her out and saying, what you did to Bruce on your wedding day, because you didn't marry him, it's because you believe he couldn't be Batman and be happy with you, and the city needs Batman. And it kind of calls her out, saying, you like to say Batman better than anyone, and you think for you leaving him, the reason is because it's going to make him stronger, but in fact it made him so weak. And that's what kind of gets Selina's attention and makes her realize that that's probably the case. Then the last page is a few panels of just Selina and the Question looking at each other, no dialogue until the last part at the end where she just says, "Okay, I lied." So it turns out that reasoning in that letter she left Batman, might not be all there is to it as far as the reasoning for not doing it, which again I think goes into the larger story that Tom King is trying to tell here with Bane kind of being the mastermind behind all this. So a solid issue. This is one of the better Nightmare stories that we've gotten in this part of Tom King's Batman saga. I do think, though, it is kind of time for it to wrap up and get back to where we left off with Batman being captured by Thomas Wayne. I can't wait to get back to that storyline with the Flashpoint Batman. We left on such a big cliffhanger, and now it's been several issues too. We see the ramifications of that. So hopefully, it does look like we're kind of moving away from the Nightmare sequence, but it's turned a corner here in this issue. So really good, some good callbacks to classic Batman moments, and I just love how Selina describes Batman as being as powerful he is because of that vow he made. So I'm going to give this 3 out of 5 on the scale of things I would do to get the Disney Plus app.
It's a lot of things, Tim.
It might get higher. Because now Batman, or I should say Detective Comics, number 999, one away from issue 1000. And I got to say, both Detective 999 and Batman 66, they had a pretty similar qualities to them in the stories they were telling here. And a lot to do in what makes Batman Batman and why I love the character so much. But they told it in different ways, which is kind of cool to see. So this is wrapping up this big arc that Peter Tomasi started with, the mythology storyline where everyone in Batman's past that has trained him or had a significant role in making him Batman was being attacked and in some cases killed, as was the case with Leslie Tompkins. And in the last issue, Batman confronted the source of it, which was a young kid in a Batman costume, which was the last page of Batman or Detective Comics 998. And then my assumption, which I'm sure everyone else had reading it, was correct that it was a younger Bruce Wayne, but just who is this young Bruce Wayne? And I guess to cut to the chase as far as what's really going on is this is, a computer program that Batman is in, but why he's in there, I'll get to that in a bit. But it is, a simulated computer program that Batman is experiencing and why he's seeing his younger self. But there's a lot of great stuff in this confrontation Batman had with this young Bruce Wayne. And first, the young Bruce Wayne just punched Batman in the face, and Batman saying he's not going to punch and hurt a little kid. And then, but as each punch the small Bruce Wayne lands on Batman, he gets older and older until he reaches the same age that Bruce is here. And it's one of those scenarios where, it's this Batman this Bruce Wayne trying to show the real Batman, what him being Batman has done to Bruce. And the thrust of the matter is that, Batman has killed Bruce Wayne, in a matter of speaking. So as they're having their fight in the Batcave, there's a great moment where the simulated Bruce Wayne goes, we harkens back to the time when we were just beginning. It goes, in hindsight, there is a purity to those old days where you didn't have all the theatrics, the costume, before you were starting out as someone who was just someone who almost died in his first battle. And I love how they crashed through the Bat computer, and on the very next page, both the real Batman and the computer simulated Batman are in their year one outfits, where it's not the Batman outfit, it's just his jacket, his beanie, where he met Selina Kyle out on the alleyways of Gotham, and they're fighting each other in that outfit. And just really great stuff visually. And then afterwards, they crash through the window, and they're fighting in Wayne Manor. They crash through the windows of Wayne Manor. They land outside in Bruce's parents' graves, and Batman returns to his Batman costume, but the computer simulation of Bruce Wayne returns to young Bruce Wayne. And this is where I really thought the issue shined, and Peter Tomasi just written some great dialogue here. You see Batman and little Bruce Wayne walk to his parents' grave, but there's a third tombstone and an open grave that's there for Bruce, and it says Bruce Wayne. And the young Bruce says, three people were murdered that night, but one was reborn, baptized in his own blood. And this bit of dialogue here is really great. He goes, these graves aren't here to feed revenge. These graves are here to feed justice. They represent, the living citizens that you prevent from going into the dark before their time. And, Bruce's reaction to hearing Little Bruce say that is just, you could tell it's really hitting him. Little Bruce tells him everything has a price. And then the adult Bruce Wayne says, and that price was you, Bruce. And he just apologizes, saying, I wish I could have had a chance to be a kid just a little longer. But young Bruce Wayne kind of reassures him, it's okay. That price was worth it, and it continues to be. He says, as so many other children have gotten to live because we didn't. And he just tells the older Bruce, take the shovel, it's time. And you see Bruce, the real Bruce, starting to cry as he's burying the little Bruce in that grave, in a sense, burying his childhood again. And the young Bruce, the last thing he says to him is, never question your mission. So then it goes to black, and then we see Bruce in a really cool, armored, tech suit with a helmet on as he's in this tank, almost like a Bacta tank from Star Wars, which is causing this whole simulation that he's going through. And we see Damian and we see Alfred trying to get him out, and Bruce is just yelling, Gotham needs me, Gotham needs me. So Bruce comes out, and then it's revealed that this is something he does every year on his birthday. And Damian's asking, why do you do this to yourself? What exactly is this program? And Bruce calls it the 2.1 landscape. And he says it worked perfectly. And as Damian asks, why do you do this? And what's the purpose of it? And Bruce tells him it's to kill me. And Bruce just says that it's to make me evolve as a better crime fighter. I mean, I got to be the best. Thinks of scenarios where there might be a reason why he's not good enough. He needs to be smarter. He needs to be stronger. And this program is to make sure he faces every obstacle. And in this case, this was the toughest one yet because, it's himself trying to kill everything that made him Batman, because in a way, the young Bruce never had a childhood. His childhood died as it told him. So it was kind of like his worst case scenario, or his worst enemy that could really make him think not to continue on with his mission is because of that. So just great stuff going back to why Bruce does what he does as Batman. And then it ends on a real positive note as far as, again, establishing and reaffirming why Bruce does what he does. He looks at this big computer monitor that says 182 Gotham citizens were murdered this year. And, that's still too much for Bruce. He goes, 182 innocent people. And Damian and Alfred tried to reassure him and say that's actually an improvement from the past 2 years when it was in the 200s. But then Bruce goes, 1 year soon, it will be zero. Absolute zero. So again, just reaffirming that determination that Batman has to continue on with his mission and continue with that vow he made to his parents. And then it ends on a real happy note where, since it was all just a simulation, Leslie Tompkins wasn't killed. Alfred was never injured. So Bruce goes to see Leslie Tompkins and pretty much to take her out to dinner, just him, her, and Alfred, his two surrogate parents who took him in and really were the ones who raised him after his parents died. And I just love that Peter Tomasi is recognizing that, because I've said it many times before on this podcast how I feel that Leslie Tompkins' role as Bruce's surrogate mother kind of gets underlooked for how important she is as far as making Bruce and Batman who he is. So the fact that it ended with the three of them kind of going out this, as family in a way was nice to see. So I really enjoyed this issue and this whole arc as a whole. I was wondering where it was going to go. It did not go where I was expected, but I'm glad that Peter Tomasi did what he did with it and making kind of this training simulation that Bruce had, what could be the worst possible scenario he can have as Batman. And I thought it worked really well instead of having it be, because that was my biggest concern. What villain would make this attack on Bruce warranted? What villain could I think be worthy enough in that story who knows Bruce's secrets? And the fact it wasn't any villain at all. It was pretty much Bruce doing battle with himself. Little similarities to The Untold Legend of the Batman, one of my favorite stories you hear me talking about so many times on this podcast. It plays out differently, but it reminded me, in a sense, it's Bruce kind of being that battle with himself and trying to get rid of Batman. So little similarities just from a narrative standpoint, but told in a completely different way, but one that was just as good in my opinion. So I'm going to give this one 4.5 out of 5 on that scale of what Tim would do to see anything on Disney Plus. So yeah, bring on issue 1000. I can't wait for it. So it's going to be an oversized issue with a lot of great writers involved, And I think the hardest part is going to be what variant cover version of Detective Comic 1000 I'm going to get. But it's going to be so cool to have another comic reach that milestone. We've had it with Action Comics, which was a great issue, and now we're getting it with the greatest superhero ever. So I can't wait.
All right, so I guess that's it, right, Tim?
Yeah, it's going to be it for this one. Kind of a short episode, but still fun discussions nonetheless.
Captain Marvel, Disney Plus,
311 Day.
311 Day. I think we got everything. Oh, spring training.
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk much baseball on this one. But spring training is underway.
Your yearly reminder that Tim Tebow is still in the minor leagues. Every single year they'd be like, oh, Tim Tebow got, a call up to the big club, for spring training.
And I think that's as high as he's going to make it, really, with the actual Mets.
So, yeah, that's it. Just go over to BatmanUniverse.net, Facebook.com/BatmanUniverse, Twitter handles at BatmanUniverse. Tim's Twitter handles at TimG311. Happy 311 Day.
Thank you, Dan. I can always count on you to say 311 when it is 311 Day.
And my Twitter handle is at Dane Says Banana. You can rate and review us on iTunes. You can email the show at batfanswithoutpants@gmail.com. So with that, like we say at the end of every single episode, Tim.
We love each and every one of you. With all of our... I was going to say one, but we talked about a lot of stuff. With all of our Disney Plus, Captain Marvel, 311 Day hearts.
See you next time, everybody.
See you next time, everyone.